My name is Lena. I am 30 years old, and 4 months ago, I died. Let me say it again, as much for myself as for you. I died, not in the metaphorical sense people use when they speak of heartbreak or dreams deferred. No, I mean, my heart stopped, my breath left, and the thin thread that ties soul to flesh snapped. And yet, I am here, left with memories so vivid, so unsettling, so luminous by turns that I know I can never go back to life as I once understood it. But before I tell you how I died, I want to tell you why I have to speak. This story weighs like a stone on my heart. It's not comfortable. It's not something I want to parade or confess for attention, but sometimes healing demands exposure. Sometimes the deepest wounds only vanish in the light. So if you've ever sat alone with your emptiness, hiding parts of yourself you think no one could ever love, know that I am speaking for you too. It started on a night that should have been ordinary. The city outside was dripping with rain, each window pane alive with trembling beads that caught the neon light and fractured it, splintering the darkness with blue, gold, red. Somewhere in the building above, a couple laughed, shrill and short lived, swallowed by the hush that always comes after. My apartment was exactly as lonely as it always felt. I'd worked too late. Again, the blue light from my laptop burning holes in my eyes. By the time I clocked out, the world seemed blurry, achy. I was hungry, but not for food. I poured myself a glass of wine, the cheap kind, tart to the tongue and never quite sweet enough, and curled on my bed. My phone pulsed with untouched notifications. My friends, my mother, my old roommate. I told myself I was too tired to answer, but the truth was simpler. I couldn't bear to lie about being fine. The only thing real in that moment was the ache inside my chest. Not pain exactly, but a gnawing yearning that colored everything gray. I scrolled through my phone, not looking for anything in particular. Maybe for distraction, maybe for comfort. I wandered into corners of the internet I rarely admitted to visiting, private chat rooms, anonymous stories, endless galleries of faces and bodies promising connection, but revealing only their own hunger. And as the rain slicked the glass outside, that familiar urge swept over me, half pleasure, half grief. I tried to talk myself out of it. That night, especially, I wanted to fight, but tiredness won out. So I sank into the old secret ritual, searching for a spark of intimacy in pixels and imagination, in the privacy bought by darkness and isolation. For a minute, I lost myself. There was a rush, familiar, fleeting, and then nothing, nothing but the ache, sharper now for having tried to dull it. I closed my eyes, hating what I had become, a woman who finds comfort in disconnection, who chases relief and wakes always lonelier afterward. I whispered questions into the dark. Why does it always end like this? Am I broken? Why am I so empty? That's when I felt it, the pressure out of nowhere rising under my breastbone, like an icy fist tightening, then squeezing so hard I could barely gasp. My eyes flew open, but the room spun. Glass and rain danced across the ceiling. My heart surged into chaos, beats too fast, too loud, then skipping, skipping, skipping. I tried to stand, to cry for help, but my legs tangled in the sheets. My lungs wouldn't fill. A noise, half sob, half moan, escaped me. Sweat slicked my palms. The world shrank to the edges of my vision. I thought, this is it. This is what dying must feel like. The terror was intimate, raw, and immediate. I wanted to beg for a second chance, to promise any God who might be listening that I'd do better, live brighter, love harder, need less. But time fractured, and then there was just letting go. There's a pause, a split second where nothing hurts anymore, where fear and longing and shame fall away. I slid into it, thought I heard my mother's voice, thought I saw, just for a heartbeat, the soft light of some nameless home. But it lasted only an instant, because suddenly I was somewhere else, somewhere unimaginable, not bright, not dark, but vivid beyond comprehension, a kind of suspended place where every sound echoed and every sense was dialed past 10. I was lying outside my own body, seeing the room from above, my limbs limp and twisted, my mouth open around a breath I no longer drew. My phone screen blinked mournfully, solitary beacon on the rumpled bedspread. I heard rain distantly, like a radio behind a wall. And then, as if swept by a great silent current, I was pulled backwards out the window into the night, falling, endless, weightless falling, not through air but through sensation, first cold and then burning hot, memories jumbled and unspooling, pain and pleasure and regret interwoven. The city flashed by beneath me, telescoping into a swirl of color and light, and then the world went totally black, but I was still me, still Lena, still thinking, remembering, aching, wanting. I tried to scream, but there was no mouth, no throat, only yearning. That's when I realized desire doesn't die with the body, it lingers, become more naked, more insistent. I didn't know then what waited for me in the darkness. All I knew was this: I was not alone. The darkness was thick, not the forgiving dark of sleep, but something alive, pressing, electric. I drifted, untethered, through a corridor where time didn't exist. The air, or what passed for air, was cold, full of scents half familiar: perfume, sweat, sorrow, longing. They wrapped around me, reminding me that even now, in this between place, I could not leave myself behind. Details flashed through my mind: my earliest secret, the first time I lied to protect a private shame, the late night discoveries, the endless push and pull of need and regret, each memory twisted in the dark. And with every turn, I felt myself becoming more exposed, more naked than flesh could ever feel. Suddenly, a glow shimmered somewhere up ahead, a faint violet light pooling on the ground, casting haunted shadows across shards of glass and broken stone. I realized I was standing, though how I came to rest, or what I was standing on, I couldn't have said. My feet made no sound, but I felt every step in the bones of memory. The landscape defied sense. It was a city, but not London or New York or anywhere real. Buildings rose sharp and crooked, made of blackened brick and polished mirrors. The sky above was bruised purple, swirling with clouds that sometimes cracked to reveal a deeper void. I wandered. Windows gaped open with no curtains, only the silent flicker of pale figures inside, some with faces pressed to the glass, some bent with sobs, others moving in slow, sad dances with invisible partners. Wherever I looked were echoes of longing, heartbreak, pleasure masking pain. A sense of dread grew in me. Was this hell? Was this judgment? But it didn't feel like punishment, more like a place built out of everything no one wanted to face. I tried to speak, to call out for someone, anyone, but my voice was only a thought that trembled and vanished. Panic threatened to rise, but instead I felt a strange pull forward, like a hand at the small of my back, urging me on. As I moved deeper into the city, the sights sharpened. A woman hunched at a table, tracing circles on its surface, lips moving in silent prayer or plea. A teenage girl stared into a mirror, eyes rimmed red, every hope and secret scrawled in trembling eyeliner. In an alley, lovers clung together, melting into one another for warmth, then tearing away, each lonelier than before. Everywhere, stories, bones made of ache, blood made of yearning. But it was the mirrors that frightened me most. Every surface reflected not my body, but my soul, shards and fragments flickering past. One showed a child, afraid to be honest about her needs. Another, a grown woman, hating the way her desires unraveled her calm. One mirror caught my gaze and held it. I saw myself not as victim or sinner, but as someone exquisitely breakable, stitched together by longing, haunted by the fear of being unworthy. I reached out, the glass rippled, cold and oily. My hand vanished into it, swallowed by a vision of myself tangled in sheets, unreachable by anyone, not even myself. As I recoiled, a voice curled up from the stones, soft as velvet, sharp as glass. You look lost, pretty one. I spun around. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman, or perhaps more. Her form shifted, sometimes smooth and inviting, sometimes ragged and monstrous. Her smile was a wound that bled honey. Am I dead? I whispered, the words stumbling out of me in silent thought. She laughed, a sound as empty as it was beautiful. You're more alive than most who walk your world, she answered, Here, nothing is hidden. Here, we wear what you try to bury. She circled me, each step echoing in my heart. You know why you came, she murmured, her gaze full of every hunger I'd ever fed in secret. Desire brought you here. Your cravings called us, built this city, wrote every lie on its walls. Suddenly, I could feel the presence of others, dozens, hundreds, some visible, others hazy, all caught in tense, restless longing. Their eyes glimmered accusation and recognition both. The woman leaned close. Her breath was the scent of nightmares and roses. Would you trade shame for bliss? She asked. Would you give up your secrets? Let them swallow you whole? Or are you ready to finally see? Her hand brushed my cheek, chill and burning at once. A flood of images crashed over me. Every moment I'd sought pleasure for comfort. Every time I'd turned away from friendship, love, real risk, to chase a shadow on the screen. Over and over, I saw myself hiding, lying, guarding the truth. My body shook with grief and self loathing. Stop, I gasped, desperate for some kind of mercy. Please. For a heartbeat, all was still. And then, a single word, gentle, clear, cutting through the cold as if spoken into the center of my soul. Lena. I knew that voice. It was unlike any I'd heard in life, yet I dreamed of it, ached for it in moments of desperate need. The shadows recoiled. The woman hissed, her beautiful face twisting. Light broke open the edge of the darkness, soft at first, then growing, blossoming into a figure of warmth and power. He stood at the end of the shattered boulevard, not tall or imposing, not armored like a warlord, just radiating presence, clothed simply, eyes deep as oceans, love pouring from him even as he gazed at every ragged place in me. Jesus, not the Jesus of 1,000 paintings, not even the Jesus I prayed to as a child. This was someone infinitely more real, tender, fierce, radiant, steadfast. He took a step, and with each pace, shadows flinched and bled away from his path. He did not threaten the woman, did not raise his hand. He simply looked into her, and she, trembling, shrank back into the mirrors, her power undone by a love she knew but could never possess. I wanted to hide, but there was nothing left to shield me. Every wound, every memory, every shame was open, visible in the starlight of his regard. Lena, he said again, drawing closer. Why are you here? I whispered, though I knew he already understood every reason, every ache. I have always been here, even in your darkest longing, even when you thought you'd banished me, locked every door. You called for love. I answered. He crouched beside me, gathering my hand into his. His touch was heat and safety. It didn't erase my shame, but made it somehow less relevant, like a garment I could set down. Tears rushed to my eyes, tears not just of guilt, but of relief, so fierce it bent me double. I'm sorry, I choked. I tried not to need what I need, but I keep failing over and over. I don't know how to stop. Gently, he lifted my face. My daughter, your needs are not your enemy. Your desires do not disgust me. You were made to crave love, but the world sold you counterfeits, shadows, poisons disguised as pleasure. Tonight, you have crossed into truth. The only way through is to see every part of yourself and invite me in. He stood, inviting me to follow. I stumbled up, amazed that my body, my soul, whatever this was, could move at all. We began to walk through the city of mirrors. Wherever he passed, colors softened, the figures trapped in glass, shadowy men, weeping women, grasping children, all turned to look at the light, some reaching, some shrinking, all changed. With every step, I felt myself becoming lighter, my burden loosening. But as we came to the heart of the city, a terrible chorus rose, a wailing song, full of bitterness and longing. The woman of shadows reappeared, towering, multiplied, stalking the avenues with all the power she could muster from secrets left unspoken. Jesus turned to me, offering his hand. We do not run from this, Lena. We walk through it, together. There is nothing in this realm, or in you, that love cannot redeem. I reached for him, my own hand shaking, and together we stepped toward the howling dark. In the heart of shadows, we walked together, Jesus and I, through a city that pulsed with longing, sorrow, and secrets too heavy to carry alone. His presence radiated warmth and safety, every step he took pushing the cold back, turning darkness into mist. Still, I felt small beside him, bracing myself against the rising tide of my oldest fears. Everywhere around us, the city seemed to watch. Windows flickered with restless faces. Somewhere, a distant bell tolled, the sound sharp, brittle, echoing my heartbeat. The nearer we drew to the city's heart, the more intense the energy became. Shadows churned in the alleys. Fragments of whispered accusations darted between the mirrors. You're unworthy. You're weak. Why did you always hide? Each voice belonged to some moment of my past, buried but never quite dead. I looked at Jesus, questions trembling in my chest. He squeezed my hand, knowing the voices are old, but the truth is older. A wave of grief crashed over me. Why did I always run? Why did I trade love for secrecy, comfort for lies? We paused before a great mirrored arch at the center of the ruins. The arch was encrusted with words, words I recognized, names I'd been called, names I'd called myself behind closed doors, broken, addict, shameless, unlovable. My fingers trembled as I traced the letters, each one burned with memory. Is this the sum of who I am? I whispered, pain fracturing every syllable. No, Jesus said gently. This is only what the darkness told you. Step through and you'll see what is truer and braver than shame. Hand in hand, we crossed beneath the arch. On the other side, the landscape changed. The city faded, replaced by a vast plain littered with heavy stones, each carved with scenes from my life. Some were bright, childhood laughter, the warmth of a friend's hug, quiet afternoons lost in stories. Others were heavy, tears shed in the dark, years spent building walls, nights where pleasure dulled the ache but never soothed the soul. The stones groaned as I walked past, some splitting to reveal secrets I'd tucked away even from myself. A memory surfaced. Me, 12 years old, listening to my parents fight, hiding under covers, ashamed of how desperately I wanted to be held, to be told I was good. Another, college years, new freedom, the thrill and terror of exploring my body. The first time desire turned to shame, like honey turning sour in my mouth. I turned to Jesus, heart aching. Why do I still carry this weight? Even here, even with you. He led me to a stone larger than the rest, beckoning me to sit. I did, knees pulled to my chest, gaze locked on his. My beloved, he said, pain stays in the shadows because your world teaches you to hide your wounds, to pretend you are not hungry, broken, unfinished. But I am not afraid of your weakness, nor disgusted by your struggles. Bring everything, your desire, your fear, your secrets, into my light. That is where freedom begins. I sobbed, not because I felt judged, but because I felt so deeply understood. I reached out, and he held me, and as I surrendered to his embrace, I felt the grip of shame loosen. He whispered, you have spent so long trying to cleanse yourself. Let me show you, you are already worthy of my love. Suddenly, the ground shook, the plain quaked, the stones rolled aside, and a great spiral staircase descended from above, carved of crystal and fire, reaching upward into blinding brilliance. Around me, the shadow woman reappeared, multiplied 100-fold, she and her echoes swirling. She screamed, she doesn't deserve you. She will always return to us, to loneliness, to lust, to the cycle in the dark. Jesus rose, standing between myself and the storm of voices. His eyes blazed, not with wrath, but with fierce protection. He held out his hand to the shadows. You have no claim on her. His tone was not loud, but it carried such authority that the very air shimmered. She belongs to me. Her story, her struggles, her desire for wholeness. Love names her, not shame. The shadows howled, swirling and dissolving like smoke in wind. Some faded, others twisted away into the far reaches of the plain, unable to withstand the light radiating from him. I felt their departure as an ache turning sweet, as if 1,000 chains had fallen from my heart. I looked at Jesus, dazzled by a love that asked nothing but my yes. He smiled, gentle and full of knowing. You are not made to walk in the dark alone, nor battle desire with willpower alone. Invite me into every longing, and you will find a strength greater than any shadow. He reached for my hand again. Come, there is more to see. Hand in hand, with the memory of the shadows receding, and my heart newly raw, we climbed the luminous staircase, up toward the place where healing becomes truth. Together, Jesus at my side, his hand steady in mine, the spiral staircase shimmering beneath our feet. Each step felt impossibly light, as if the weight of my fears and secrets was falling away, left behind on the stones below. The darkness of the city faded further with every ascent, until the air itself seemed to turn translucent, glowing with the promise of morning. My body, my soul throbbed with anticipation and dread, the way it sometimes does on the edge of great change. At the top of the staircase, we emerged into a garden, not the ruined, haunted maze below, but a place of such radiant beauty and peace I nearly staggered under the shock. Flowers glowed with colors I had never seen, scents bursting with life and hope, air so clear it trembled like music. And all around us, women moved, shining, whole, faces alight with joy and hard-won wisdom. Some I recognized, a childhood friend gone too soon, a beloved aunt who had died of heartbreak, a classmate I envied for her confidence but now saw had known struggle as deep as mine. Others were strangers, but sisters in spirit. Jesus guided me to a circle in the heart of the garden. The women welcomed me, not with judgment, but with understanding and delight. There were no masks here, no secrets, only the freedom of truth, of being fully seen and loved. One step forward, a woman with gentle eyes, threaded gray in her hair, ancient pains softened by the light. She touched my shoulder, her voice steady as velvet. "We all traveled the valley you've walked," she said. "We all carried burdens, built walls, chased shadows, feared rejection. But here, your story will not shame you. Your story is your key." Tears burned in my eyes again, but this time they were not only tears of sorrow, but of relief, of promise. I turned to Jesus, searching his face for what came next. His eyes were deeper than any fear, his voice surer than any doubt. "You are not your shame," he told me. "You are not the sum of your hunger, nor the worst story you ever believed about yourself. Desire is not your enemy if you bring it to the light. Let it be a bridge, not a wall. You were meant for love without fear, and in freedom without secrecy." He took both my hands. I felt warmth surge through me, not erasing my memories, but infusing every wound, every regret, every craving with hope. I was not blank or scrubbed clean. I was whole, every part of my story alive and integrated in the light. Suddenly, the circle widened. The women each stepped forward. Some laughed joyfully, some bowed their heads in holy reverence, each radiating their own kind of grace. One spoke. "I battled loneliness for years, tried to fill it with lovers and lies, thinking pleasure might drown the ache. It never did. But here I learned, only truth heals, only love sets us truly free." Another laid a palm against her heart. "I used to hide my body, my desires, not daring to hope that even that soft, secret place could belong to God's light. But in surrender, I found I was not dirty, only fractured, needing to be made whole." Around the circle, I heard stories, each different, but all echoing with pain transformed. The hush of years spent in shame replaced by the music of real belonging. For the first time in forever, I felt part of something holy, and my soul thrilled at the sound. Jesus stood in the center. He lifted his gaze to each one of us, fierce and gentle. "My beloved," he said, his voice ringing with power, "the battle on earth is not just against darkness, but against forgetfulness. You are meant to remember who you truly are, daughters of light, bearers of truth, made for wholeness. Darkness will try to shame you with your hunger, to twist your longing into loneliness, but I have overcome every shadow. Wherever you call on me, wherever you dare to bring your desire and your weakness into the light, I will be there, and nothing will separate us, not death, nor failure, nor old regret." He drew me to the center, before the faces of women who had fought their own secret wars and won, not by willpower, but by surrender. "Lena," he said, "your work is just beginning. You will return, not just healed for yourself, but a voice for others. Tell this story. Tell what you have seen. Tell them there is a way through shame to love, that it begins with truth and is finished in light." For an endless moment, I stood in that garden, whole, seen, beloved, and absolutely free. My eyes closed, my hands in his. I heard the distant echo of rain begin again, but now it sounded not lonely, but alive with promise.
When I opened my eyes, the garden shimmered, light and color and song swirling together, and I felt the gentle tug, a beckoning into my own body, the world that waited. Will I remember? I asked, fear warring with hope. You will remember enough, he told me, his gaze steady as sunrise. And every step you take, I will walk with you, more real than darkness, closer than fear, stronger than any shame. So I said yes, yes to the light, yes to the journey, yes to bringing secrets into the open, and the world spun, faster, brighter, a thunder of joy in my bones, until, with a gasp, I fell softly back into my own skin.
With gasp, I was wrenched back through swirling color, through waves of warmth and sound, and suddenly everything was harsh and bright again. The world snapped into focus, hospital lights burning overhead, the shrill cry of monitors, voices urgent and far away. My chest heaved. The weight of my own body was foreign, heavy as stone. My heart beat wild against my ribs, alive, pounding, proof that I had returned. I heard voices, strangers at first, then a familiar one, my mother's, ragged with worry and hope. She's awake. Lena, baby, can you hear me? I blinked against the harsh light. Tears burned my eyes. All the memories, the city of mirrors, the embrace in the garden, the shining faces, and the voice that had called me by my real name, crowded at the edge of waking. A doctor leaned in, shining a light into my eyes. She's stabilized. You're safe, Lena. You're back. Those words struck me harder than I could have imagined. Back, alive, but not the same. As days passed, memories from that other place faded around the edges, like a vivid dream dissolving in sunlight. And yet, what remained was unshakable, the feeling of being seen, the sense of wholeness, the certainty that love had swept every fear, every secret into the open and declared me worth saving. There was pain in coming back to ordinary time, the old apartment, the blue light of the phone, the routines that once lulled me into believing nothing would ever change, but I was changed. I couldn't carry the same old secrets in the same old way. I remember sitting in my mother's kitchen, tracing circles onto the table just as I had seen in the Vision City. Her hand covered mine, gentle, patient. I thought I'd lost you, she whispered, her eyes shining with relief. You didn't, I said, voice hoarse, and I promise you never will. For weeks, I was haunted and comforted by flashes of that other world, the faces of the women in the garden, the words that had set me free, the feeling of Jesus, fierce, loving, steadfast, walking beside me. One night, unable to sleep, I opened my journal and began to write, not just about what had happened, but about who I was now, about the things I'd spent years hiding, my deepest shames, my honestly human hunger for love, connection, truth. At first, my hand trembled, old fear rising up, but I kept writing. Every time I set a secret to paper, I felt the faintest heat, as if I was bringing it into the light, step by step. I started with my closest friend, inviting her over for tea, stumbling through my story, afraid she'd see me as broken or strange. Instead, she wept. She held my hands and told me her own secrets, her own battles, the loneliness she'd never dared to name. The more I spoke, the more I discovered shame shrinks in the presence of honesty. Darkness flees when named. Every truth given voice becomes a passageway, not only to healing, but to community, to purpose, to life. It was not easy. There were those who did not understand, who looked away or changed the subject, who shifted awkwardly in their seats and kept their own walls strong. But every time someone's eyes met mine with tears and courage, I knew this was why I had returned, not only to be made whole myself, but to shine this healing outwards. Sometimes, in the hush before sleep, or waking in the gentle gray before morning, I sense him beside me again, not always in words, not always in vision, but in a warmth that lingers at the edge of loneliness, in a courage that whispers, I am with you, you are mine. Love is stronger than shame. I remember the promise of the garden, the voices laughing through pain, declaring victory victory. Your story is the key. You are not your wounds. You are not alone. If you are listening now, if there's an ache inside you that cannot be filled, if there are wounds you've tried to bury so deep, you almost forget they are there, know this: you are not unworthy of love. You are not condemned to walk forever in the city of mirrors. Shame and longing do not define you. There is a hand reaching for you, willing to walk with you step by step into the light, to the place where every secret becomes seed, every wound a signpost of survival and hope. I am Lena. I died and I came back, not perfect, not without scars, but free. Now I carry the story. Now I live so that you, whoever you are, will know if ever you step into the darkness, there is always a way back to the light.